Welcome back, everybody. Jeff and Nikki Kai here with UtahMountainHomeSearch.com. Today we're with Ace Allak again.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for joining us again. Ace is our
Good.
go-to lender with People's Home Equity, and we've been talking to Ace now for 3-4 weeks now about kind of market updates and what's going on. Can you tell us what's going on? Give us an update.
You know, markets have stabilized. Rates are good. They're the same as last week. You're going to be, low threes to mid threes conventional. Government loans, FHA, USDA. We've seen it go as low as the high twos. So it's pretty good time. We're still in your low segment. Reminder, every 1% of interest rate is equal to 12 to 14% of buying power. So it is a good time.
So we saw articles in the last couple of days about the mortgage forbearance and clarifying a lot of the misinformation that was out there. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, we've had some clarity on that. With forbearance, the options are this. If you choose to call and go into forbearance, you can get up to 6 months of forbearance, possibly more, possibly less, depending on who the bank and the servicer is. At the end of that 6 months, you're going to be given a few options. You can either pay off the balance that's due, add it to your principal amount, and have your monthly mortgage payment go up to make up the difference. And some may even look at a modification after 6 months. I want to be clear, though, we've also noticed that credit scores do go down when somebody does go into forbearance. So although they're saying the 30-day late won't count against you from a lending standpoint, the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, are viewing it as an added credit risk because that's their job. They're private companies evaluating credit risk, and they are docking credit scores. So, and it will report as forbearance on the credit. So there is some impact. It's not a freebie. Again, for those that have to do it, if you have questions, feel free to call me. We may know more than the average layman. But if you don't have to avoid it, there will be impacts without question.
Great.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to share some really awesome news about the Park City area home market. Just some really quick stats from this week's hot sheet. We had 60 new listings, so that's exciting.
Awesome.
46 went pending, and 20 actually closed. So this time of year, we're at the end of April, where it's mud season. That's super encouraging statistics. And Jeff, tell them about the story this week of our home buying experience.
So I'll link it back to Ace at the end. So we had a client that we made a full price offer on a home, got into a multiple offer situation, and we were at full price cash and we lost out. People are still buying homes. We kind of caught us off guard. And I think what clients can do right now is to be fully prepared when people are ready to go, because if you think you're the only one kind of sitting around waiting to see how this all shakes out, everybody has that mentality right now. So getting together with somebody like Ace, getting pre-approved, is a huge factor in placing an offer. And we submit that with the offer, and it shows that you are a real buyer in today's market, because everybody thinks, loans are harder to get and so on. Can you go through your process on how to pre-qualify somebody?
Yeah,
as well.
Sure. It takes 15 minutes to do it, and a handful of documents to do it properly. There is pent-up demand still in Utah. We're seeing the same thing. We had multiple offers on a $560,000 home. A lot of those follow the loan limits for the county, because up to the conforming limit, people can put 5% down, right? So your audience of who can buy those homes is much bigger. Where we talked about some shrinking in some of the jumbo markets, that's not happening in high balance conventional or conventional. There's still a lot of buyers, and inventory levels are not caught up yet. So the outskirts may suffer a bit, but if you're in the Salt Lake Valley, in any kind of metropolitan area, in Summit County, Wasatch County, unless you're way out there in an off product, we haven't seen much of a drop in demand, at least not at this stage.
So say somebody's got a house to sell. Mm-hmm. Are there options for them to buy before they actually sell these days?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing we'd look at is to see if they could income qualify for both. A lot of times people do and don't realize it. The other option would be to purchase the new home. You can get your equity out of your current home, purchase the new home, and then make a big principal payment down the road and do something called a recast, which is you re-amortize your new loan on the home for 30 years. after you put that big chunk after you sell your previous home. Because what I find is a lot of people hold off because they want to put a big chunk down on their new home. They actually could afford both, especially if it's a move up and their current home will go quickly, and you guys can give them the info on that to get a good idea.
Sure.
Right? But yeah, it's totally possible, and we do them all the time. We just need to know ahead of time. And then, so let's say you buy a house for $500,000, right? And you only have $100,000 to put down, but after you sell your current home, you'll have another $100,000. So you put your first $100,000 down, you close on the new home so you can act quickly. And then after your current home sells, you put the other $100,000, you let us know, you make one principal payment and it re-amortizes. And our servicing will allow that.
Yeah, awesome.
Without a refinance.
That's great.
For us, that's a great option, especially in this time when a lot of people are worried about having other people in their homes before they move into their next home. So this would allow somebody to buy their new place, move in, and then have all of the showings happen when it's vacant and empty. Therefore, not, jeopardizing any health issues if that's of concern. We also have a lot of other precautions that we're taking when we list and show homes, following the CDC guidelines. So
it's like anything else. It rewards the prepared.
Yep.
And knowing what your options are just empowers you that much more when you go out in the market. Whether it's now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, by the time you need to, sometimes that's like, it's a little late in the process. So it's always better to prepare.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to just chat with you about doing what we talked about, putting some down and then recasting a mortgage later, what's
it's
the
called
best?
a recast. Yeah.
Recast. Okay,
Yep.
awesome. Tell us a little bit more about how to get a hold of you and what's the best way to connect.
Yeah, call me at 801-694-6439 or email aceteam@peopleshomeequity.com. Again, that's aceteam, ACETEAM, @peopleshomeequity.com, all spelled out. And we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Even if you're working with somebody else, our core values are always people first. So Jeff and Nikki will vouch for that. We'll still help you. We just want to make sure you're in a good spot, not just now, but 5 years from now and what you're doing.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ace.
All right.
We also want to mention that we've been working on with the board. They've got a weekly summary sheet that goes down and breaks down the activity from when COVID actually started. So you can see the active listings, the pending listings, the closed listings, and what those numbers are doing. And it's fascinating going back to first week of January.
Yeah.
So if anybody has questions about that, call us, text us, email us, and we'll get you a copy of that.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up today. Ace, we'll see you next week.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Have a good one. Take
Thank
care. Bye.